Everybody, once again, it is Rahkee Horror live. Yes, yes. And of course, I am with my co-hostess, the lovely Kim. How are you doing this evening?
Good. How's everybody?
Doing great. And we got the amazing today. Man, let me tell you, it is an honor. I haven't seen this guy for years. And it is the one and only, the Legion of Exorcists, excuse me, Father. I don't want to mess this up. Father Shawn Whittington. How are you doing today?
Brother, I can't complain. Life is good, and it's nice to see you both. It's the first time meeting Kim. I think what people really want to know, more than want to know anything from me, I think what people really want to know is that if you two have set a date and when's the wedding.
Oh man,
Oh, well,
that's on her. Hey, that's on her. I'm throwing it out there. It's I'm not the
You two
key
are
stopper.
engaged, correct? I have
Yes, we
the
are.
right two people, right? Okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
Okay. Well,
yeah.
that's
No,
what
the
people
right
want to
you're
two
know.
absolutely
people.
right.
I
Yeah,
can
no,
marry you.
we are.
I can marry you on the
I
show live tonight.
Oh my God.
Hey, Kim, how about that?
What a generous offer. Uh, it would be an amazing event. But something I would like to plan a little bit better, please.
Yeah, she was
I
talking about
understand.
Hawaii and like, yeah, she was trying to do the, yeah, that whole thing. It didn't work. It didn't work, Sean. I appreciate the offer, man. Like,
Oh, you paid him. I get it. Taking bribes. No, just kidding.
God, I want my thousand. I want my $1,000 back. Just throwing it out there.
Okay. All right.
No,
Got it, man.
no, dude is like we. Let me tell you something. I met this dude. It was on a radio show. It was like years ago, and good dude, man. Got a chance to meet up, and we were talking about it was a Pioneer Saloon, and then we were talking about some other stuff and his some of his amazing stuff. Man, your career has taken off since then, and you've done some amazing work. I mean, not only as far as like what you do as like helping others because of your profession, but I mean like also um, going to help like people in distress that have these like experiences that cannot be explained. How
You,
did you get into like everything that you do now? Hello.
I always tell
Oh,
people
I'm sorry.
this.
Yeah.
I'm stealing this line from an old friend who was also
Hmm.
in this field. Who, whenever you asked her how did you get into this, she would always say, "I got drug into it, kicking and screaming," and that literally, pretty much, is what happened to me. I was just, uh, my wife and I, we met, fell in love, and got married 20 years ago, and we both immediately
Hmm.
realized we both had a passion for investigating the paranormal, and we're into all of that. So we
Right.
started Ghost Be Gone, and we were just out having fun, doing a little ghost busting, a little ghost hunting, some paranormal
Hmm.
investigating. We occasionally helped some people in their homes who had Aunt B or Uncle Tom still hanging around, wanting to not,
Right.
cross over, upsetting the family. A little bit of that, but nothing too major. And then my wife and I worked a case for a coworker, a friend of mine who knew that we did that. She was having
Hmm.
some issues at her home, and what was unusual about that, we knew going in that it was a case unlike anything we'd ever worked before. They were newlyweds, but she was being, for lack of a better description, she was literally being raped by something
Oh
that she
wow.
couldn't see, and right in front of her husband. And whenever he tried to intervene, he would come under attack too. And then the attacks escalated, and it would happen to her in the shower. It would happen to her when they were, eating dinner or on the couch lounging, watching TV, or if she
Hmm.
was out on the balcony having a cigarette. So we went over to investigate, and honestly, we didn't know what we were doing. We didn't know what we were up against, and
Right.
we made, in my humble opinion, a big mistake. And I know I'm going to get hate mail for this, but we used a Ouija board,
Oh,
And we tried to contact this thing that was there, and it ended up following us home and took residence up in our house here for about 2 months. And my
wow.
wife was the one that really was the focus of that attack. And I didn't know what to do, man. I was, I'd never come across anything like that before. So I reached out into the paranormal community for help, and
Mhm.
God bless them. Once they came through for me, and they introduced me to my then mentor, who's retired now, and she took me under her wing, taught me how to fight
Mhm.
this thing and get it out of the house, which we were successful, but it came at great cost. My wife, who was at that time and still the healthiest person I knew, didn't drink, didn't smoke, um,
Right.
no history of cancer in her family, but this attack was diabolical on her, and it left her with three very rare forms of cancer, which she wasn't
Oh my
expected to
gosh.
survive. So I was scared. I didn't want the same thing to happen to me. I didn't want the same thing to happen to any other family members or close friends. And I wanted to help her. She wasn't expected to survive. So I wanted to help her, you know, in this battle. So I actually left the field for a while with no intentions on going back. But my mentor said that she apparently saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. And she said that I think you should continue your training. I think you're being called to this. So I said yes, even though I was scared, I said yes to continuing the training, mainly because I wanted to be able to know what to do the next time something like
Mm.
that happened. But I was kind of bouncing back and forth. I was trying to help my wife during her battle with her cancers, and training as much as I could, and still occasionally working some cases. But make a long story short, we came through all of that, and the rest is, as they say, history. My wife is still here. She survived. She's still with us. Thank you, Jesus. And she uh, is still doing her thing, and I'm still doing my thing. And I finished my training and got ordained through a Christian university. And I was when you and I met, I
Mhm.
was a reverend through a Christian
Yeah.
university. Uh, that was interesting. I mean, you and I have not only a lot in common, but back then, um, we were spending a lot of time out at the Pioneer Saloon in Good Springs, going on the ghost hunts and
Yes.
helping that team out and stuff. But I remember you came on my radio show, and you said, "Can I talk to you after the show?" And we were out in the street. I don't remember how long we stayed out there, leaning up against your car talking. And you had told me that you had something that you felt had attached to you from there. And a lot of people at that time were reaching out to me who had gone there, who were experiencing the same things. And so it's been a few years. I always wondered, I prayed over you, I put a blessing on you, and I continued to pray for you. Whether I don't know if you knew that or not, I continued to pray for you. So, two things I wanted to know from you. Did that help, and how did you come through that?
Um, that's some, that's a good question. It I think it hit harder after the fact. Funny you should even mention the fact because we were actually, me and Kim were, like, going through the footage of everything because some stuff that's happened not only there, like, I seem to get, like, I don't know, something it's I believe it's still there. I can't, I mean, we got footage of how would you describe it, Kim? Like,
Well, it seems like wherever we go, something attacks him. Wherever we go, and you know whether he completely got rid of it or where it stems from, where we don't really know. He's much better, I would say. But if it's still there, I don't know. That's on you, Rocky.
I I I don't know. I
Well, I'll tell
really
you,
don't
I look
know.
at you, and you look great. You sound great. I know that you quit drinking. You and I both have also that history. I've spent 20 years a raging alcoholic and drug addict, so been there, done that. And you came
Right.
through that. So I'd have to say you're doing better. But just be careful, brother, because you've got your whole life ahead of
Yeah.
you. You're a lot younger than I am. You've got to marry this beautiful woman and maybe have a family and have a wonderful life ahead of the two of you. So just be careful because this stuff is very, very real. I'll tell you, man.
Yeah, it
If it
is.
wasn't for extreme divine intervention, I definitely would have lost my wife because she first started with squamous cell carcinoma of the tongue. Now she's also a minister, so think about how
Mhm.
diabolical this attack was. It wanted to stop her from getting her preach on. So at first it started with tongue
Right.
cancer, which spread and became throat cancer, which became medullary thyroid cancer, which spread into all these lymph nodes in her neck. And the doctors didn't expect her to survive. She went from in a matter of weeks from 130 pounds, I want to say, to about 90. She had a feeding tube in for well over a year, couldn't speak for 8 months, couldn't swallow water for like 4 months. Went through the
Right.
chemo and the radiations and all that. But one night, I was convinced. I was 100% convinced that she was going to not be alive in the morning. She was having that kind of a night. So I didn't know what to do, and I remembered something my mother did before I was even born for my father when he was on his deathbed. He survived too, but she did something, and I said, you know what, I'm going to do that. And what I did was I drove to this all-night prayer chapel around the corner, and I went in there. I blessed myself, and I crawled on my hands and knees all the way up to the altar, and I threw myself on the mercy of the court, if you will. And I laid there probably for 2 hours talking to whoever would listen, begging for them to save my wife's life. Don't take her from me. And all of a sudden, I had this feeling that it was all okay to just go home. But I'll tell you, I was driving home scared because I thought, is God getting ready to let me down easy? Am I going to come home and walk in and my wife's going to be dead? So I was a little scared, but I just had this feeling you need to go home. So I snuck in. It's like 3 o'clock in the morning. I snuck in. I walk over to her and I sit there and I watch and I listen and she's still breathing. I'm like, okay, well, she's still alive. My phone starts ringing. I'm like, who's calling me at this
Mm.
time of the morning? I look and I have
Right.
family and close friends. I'm like, well, I should answer it. It's New York call. I only know one person in New York, and it was a good friend of mine that I've known all my life named Russ. I answer the phone. Of course, it's him. Well, Russell, I've known him all my life. Diehard atheist, biggest heart you could ever imagine in a person, best friend. He'd give you the shirt off his back, take a bullet for you, but just an atheist. Good guy, but just an atheist. But he was on his deathbed dying from advanced colon cancer, and I just spoke to him a
Gosh.
few days before, and he sounded terrible. He sounded phenomenal. And I'm like, bro, what's going on with you? You sound great. What's going on? He goes, well, I'll get through this without getting too emotional. He said, I just wanted to call you and tell you that I just saw God, and God told me to call you and tell you that Sharon's going to live and that you need to
Nice.
continue to fight those responsible. And at that time, I had no intentions on getting back into the field, but and he just died a short time after that. But
Oh,
he was
wow.
right. My wife
Wow.
made a miraculous turnaround, and we still, have she's eating relatively normal again. The feeding tube's out. She's back to work. Um, we have two full body CTs and MRIs done on her every year. No signs of the metastasis of any of the disease left. So it was truly a miracle. But now I had to jump back up on the horse. But I was still scared. But the very next case I worked was a pastor friend of mine called me and said, I've got this woman who I believe either she's possessed or at the very least she's got demons infesting her home. I need your help. And I turned her down a half a dozen times. Finally,
Oh,
she caught me
wow.
on a good day. Yeah, she caught me on a good day and talked me into going with her. And sure enough, this place was thoroughly infested and the woman was in need of help. But it was during that investigation I had a vision of the Holy Spirit, and I knew that was God telling me, "We have your back. You need to do this." So I worked that case, still on the fence if I wanted to continue. But the very next case that came across my desk was a very violent And that episode is actually in the Legion of Exorcists. That was a very
Mm.
violent possession case involving a young child. And it was during that
Mm.
Mm.
case I came under extreme demonic attack. And I believe, colleagues of mine think that I actually probably died during that attack, and it was divine intervention that brought me back. But that case
During
was
this
I
attack, I
saw Jesus.
apologize.
It's okay.
What's going through you? What does it feel like when these attacks are happening?
At first, it's just you know, uh, it's hard to put into words. You feel like uh, wind. You feel like
Mhm.
a wind that has substance has just bound you. In my case, it felt like I was lifted up in the air and bent over backwards, excruciating pain, like um, just being electrified, but a very painful. Like I can imagine, I can imagine what it must be like to be in the electric chair or being prodded by a lot of
Right.
cattle prods. And then you lose time because I remember where I was attacked, and this happened actually twice. When I was attacked, I was at the beginning of a hallway and saw a swirling black mist, which before I knew it was on me. And then I woke up and I didn't realize that about an hour had passed and I was on my back on a bed in the master bedroom. And when I woke up and sat up, I realized that I had defecated and urinated in my pants. And I realized I hadn't
Oh,
done that since
wow.
I was a little kid. Something I must, I must have something so horrible must have happened to me on a level that I'd never realized before that I just let everything go. And that's when my
Wow.
colleagues feel that I probably died then and it was divine intervention that brought me back. But the second attack,
Yeah.
very similar, but when I woke up, I found myself, I was in a bedroom, but when I woke up, I found myself on my knees in the desert. And I actually thought, and I was really there. Wherever I was really there. I thought I got hit over the head and mugged and drug out and dumped in the desert.
Mm.
But then when I still could see my client sitting Indian style in the dirt, just few feet away from me. I'm like, well, did we both get drug out here? Then I had a vision of Jesus Christ on Calvary and knew that this was the major decision making time here. Do I, you know, if I knew that if I wasn't going to make the right decision, that I probably wouldn't be here talking with you tonight. So I actually crawled over to the cross that Jesus was on, thinking that maybe I was hallucinating, but it was very real. I remember using the cross to help me get to my feet. I remember kissing Jesus's feet, and I always remember seeing his left foot over his right. And so to this day, whenever I see a crucifix, I always look at the feet. And then many times they're side by side or right over left. But
Right.
to me, whenever I see the left over right, it reminds me of that time.
Mm.
And Jesus really didn't even look like Jesus. He looked like just a slab of rotting meat hanging on a tree. It was
Mhm.
just brutal. But when I kissed his feet and I could taste the dried blood and dirt in my mouth, instantly the whole situation turned around, and I just felt this just like I was unstoppable, and I just had an army with me. And I turned around and walked over to my client, and I could see beyond my client that that was probably hell because it was much more desert, and there were hooded figures and black dogs running around. So I did a Johnny on the spot exorcism, which I don't recommend, on my
Right.
client at that time, and we both came through it. And it was a young child, but we both came through
Mm.
that. So um, I you know I hate to keep saying called to this, but people reach out to me all the time and I want to be an exorcist. How to be an exorcist? Can you teach me how to be an exorcist? And I feel bad telling people. I
Right.
know right away when someone calls me and says that, No, it's not good. They're not cut out for it. And
Don't recommend
I
it.
to this day
Highly
every
don't.
day
Worst
I
job
wake up
ever.
I wake up every day and pray I never have to take
uh,
authority over another exorcism again. Um,
uh,
and that's I just want to be a priest now, but I know that it's not over. So I just and I'm just so happy to finally meet Kim and see you. And like I said, you look great, and I'm glad you came through that. I know you might still be occasionally struggling with that stuff. Just get good with God, brother, and just be careful because these things are real. And what's different between when you and I used to go out to Pioneer Saloon and do a little ghost hunting and talk to some of the old miners and cowboys and prostitutes there, the dead ones, not the living ones. That's
yeah,
disembodied human spirits are much different than the demonic, and those they're out to ruin
for
your life and kill you and kill people around you, and you know that. So
yeah,
I still pray
I
for you,
could just
brother.
use
You're
a
on my
bit
prayer
of
list.
thank you. I appreciate that. No, I could just even when I am on investigations, I could literally feel the difference of whatever is ghost versus demonic versus whatever it may be. It's and then just finding just providing evidence. It's like when I got into this, it wasn't even really supposed to end up with me on this radio show. It's I just did this just to prove that all this was BS. That's why I started, just to prove this was BS. And then other people got interested, and then just started connecting with a lot of people through difference to where I made a lot of new friends, and here I am now. But I really can't investigate right now, or um, because I got a heart condition. Unfortunately, I'm not sure if you knew about that,
I
and
did not, brother.
yeah, I ended up getting a reduced injection. So whatever it is not flowing right, and it's not like it's my heart's doing half the work right now. So I'm not supposed to be getting like over what like freaking out or
Yeah,
having any type of like uh I don't know, just stress or
overexertion,
anything like that.
stress,
Yeah, over. Yeah,
anxiety.
there you go. That's what I'm looking for.
What are your options
So
with? Is it curable?
as of right now, they're saying if I eat right and if I if I eat right and if I do exercise, should I'm supposed to be going doing these stairmasters with my uh, workout partner over
Hmm.
here.
Yeah,
uh,
cardio, eating
cardio,
right. He
yeah,
takes a heart pill, a cholesterol pill, and stuff, and he's been doing pretty good. So we'll see. We're
Good
just
for you.
not.
yeah, but like I don't want to leave the field. Like I've worked too hard to get to where I am. It's just like now pretty much life or death situation at this point, which I never thought I would have that type of you know, options
Yeah,
as far as
yeah.
now it's a life or death situation. Rock, do you really want to go? I'm like, no, I really, I'm trying to figure this whole health thing out. And then when I get that done, then, maybe I just, right now I am helping, but from a distance because I could only do so much.
Are you still
So,
doing stuff with chill seekers?
uh,
You were
yes
chill
and no.
seekers, weren't you?
I wasn't. Yes. I still am. I mean, technically, I'm still in a chick. I'll always be a chill seeker, but we haven't done anything. He was just actually Keith was on my show like a few weeks ago, and he's been doing stuff a lot with Bass Paranormal, which is his better half right now. And yeah, they've been doing stuff, but like I said, I can't really can't really do anything. Um, like because of my health issues. Actually,
I have a question. So you
Sure.
live in a haunted house? Like you said, your house is haunted. How long have you been there?
We've been here. My wife and I moved in here before we even got married, so I want to say in the neighborhood of around 25 years. House was built in the early 70s, and the whole neighborhood's a little weird. But we knew right away when we moved in here that there was something going on. But at first, it wasn't. and it still isn't scary. We think it's visitations. My wife and I at the time were doing a lot of paranormal investigating, so we figured, since she's sensitive, um, that a lot of this was attachments following us home, and they would hang out for a little while, and then I would do a cleansing and a blessing on the home and a smudging and get them out of here. Um, and then as time went on, we've had some come in here that created an issue, and we had to deal with that. Uh, but we believe that it's something more attached to the property. And I've
Mm,
constantly, like, I mean, I just did this yesterday. Probably once every week or every 2 weeks, I do a thorough cleansing, blessing, and sealing of the home. I go out and do a little bit of it in the yard, trying to kind of do a hedge of protection type blessing on the
mm,
property, and kind of try to keep them at bay. You go out into my yard and walk around, and you feel it more out on the property. So I think
Mm.
something's more attached to the property here. And you guys living out here in Vegas, I mean, everywhere you walk, it's old Indian ground. I mean, we don't know where
yeah.
the old Indian burial grounds are or aren't, where old reservations are or aren't. Um, so just about everywhere you go, and a lot of people don't realize just how spiritually active and haunted the Vegas Valley is. Um, so it's just an interesting place. But yeah, I live in a haunted house. In fact, whenever I do my show, they always get very active. I don't know if you can see. I've got this right about there, this dream catcher,
Mhm.
which was
Mhm.
Mm,
gifted to me by a chief when I went, or a holy man, I should say, when I went to work. And I can't tell if it's moving or not, but sometimes when I'm doing
Oh, it
my
is.
show, sometimes
Mhm. I
yeah.
when
see
I
it
start
moving.
I start talking
Right
about
when
it,
you did that,
sometimes,
it started
yeah,
moving.
it'll swing or it'll
Yep.
spin, and I'll know that there's an audience in here watching the show that we can't see. But it is what it
Well,
is.
is it something that, you would suggest people to continue to get rid of it, or is it something that you could just live with? Um, and if you just kind of ignore it, does it get worse, or what is your advice for people living with ghosts in their house?
If it's just a disembodied human spirit and they find it kind of neat, and it's not trying to hurt anybody or throw things or keep them up all night by moaning and groaning and rattling the chains, um if you can live with it, i would just I would just find a way to live with it. If it People that are really freaked out by it, they need to somehow find a way to get it to move on. If it's something much more lower vibrational and darker and malevolent in nature, or God forbid demonic, that's a completely different situation, and they absolutely must be prepared to go to battle and get people in there that know how to battle and get those things out. And I hate to say this, but they might even be have to be prepared to sometimes pack their bags and go and move, because
Mhm.
Mm,
there was a time where we would never, Rocky, you know it. There was times where we would never say that to a client, but times have
right.
changed, and sometimes you got to do what you got to do. I have on more than one occasion have advised people. I've done everything I can. I've brought people in here to help me that are way more experienced than I, and we can't get this thing to move on. Um, you know what? I'm going to get hate mail for this too, but I think when it comes down to that, it's probably the client's fault. Many times, people just aren't there. They think they're at rock bottom, and tell you they'll do everything you ask them to do to help you help them,
Right.
but they end up not doing it, and that makes things worse. You're in there doing the best you can, but they're not all aboard. They're not all in, and they continue to do things that that fuel the situation, and it just makes things worse.
Right. No, no, that's 110%, and it's man, it's
Well,
crazy.
I have so many questions for
Yeah, I
you.
know. Kim's
I
been
like
waiting
I'm
all
biting at
week
the
to
bit
talk to you,
here.
and I was like, man, I'm so happy to have I haven't seen
This is a
Shawn in a long
If you
wonderful,
don't
time.
get to
wonderful.
all
So
of them
Kim, go ahead.
tonight, we can have a part 2.
Yes.
Of course,
I'm
of
just
And I
course.
got to get
enjoying,
you two on my show too. I promise I
that'd be
won't bug
Let
you
us
great.
guys
know.
about.
I'm
Yeah,
always
but
down, brother.
I promise I
I'm
won't
always
bug you
down.
guys about getting married. But I'd love to have you guys on my show too.
No, it doesn't bother me at all.
So, um, I know that you were on the Exorcist show, Legions of Exorcists, but you said that you don't do that anymore. So you were just sharing a few of your stories. Is that
Well,
what
what
you
I
were
do
doing?
now, I just graduated the seminary and just flew out to spent the last almost 3 years in the seminary for the United States Soul Catholic Church. Finally flew out to Illinois for a big retreat over the St. Patrick's Day weekend and got ordained to the
Mm,
priesthood. But when I
nice.
entered the
Congratulations.
seminary, how this is another life changing type story where um, a good friend of mine who lives back east, she's a paranormal author. Her name's Joni Mahan, and this is before the pandemic. She got a phone call from a
Mm,
guy claiming to be a producer working on a show about demonic possession and exorcism, and did she know anybody that he should talk to? Well, once she realized he was legit, she reached out to me first and said, "You want to talk to this guy?" And I said, "Yeah, it couldn't hurt anything, but I doubt it'll amount to anything because he just, I just had my doubts." And I actually turned the guy down the first time he called me. But the more I talked to this guy, and this is like I said, before the pandemic even, the more I talked to him and started talking to the writer and another producer and show creators that were all involved and listening to what their vision was going to be and how they wanted it to go, I started buying into it. And so uh, many hour and a half, 2 hour, 2.5 hour long Zoom meetings with writers and stuff, just telling them my stories. Eventually, it all happened. Now, the show didn't even air till last June, so that's how long it took for it to finally us to get out to LA, film it, and get it on the air. But when I was on that set, I met for the first time Bishop James Long. I knew who he was. We'd never met before, but we really hit it off. And after 2 weeks of working with him in LA, we're done. And I'm just sitting in a trailer. And he walks in there and says, "Do you mind if I come in and have a word with you?" And I'm like, "Sure, James, come on in. What's on your mind?" And he's got this, he's up to something grin on his face. I'm like, "What's going on?" He goes, "Well, I wanted to tell you that you have a pure heart, and I think you would make a great priest. Did you ever thought about going into the seminary and becoming a Catholic priest?" And I didn't tell him at that time, but when I was a little kid, my mother, who was may she rest in peace, she's in heaven now. She was the most devout Catholic and spiritual person I ever met. She used to tell me all the time when I was little, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And I would say, stupid kid, I would say things like a fireman, a cop, NFL player,
number
Spider-Man,
one,
whatever.
number one answer. Yeah. Yeah.
She would say, "I think you should be a priest." And I thought that was the craziest thing anybody would ever say to me. But when he started saying that to me, I kid you not, I saw my mother's face on his face. And she had a very thick Brazilian accent. Her voice is coming through his mouth as he's saying, "I think you should be a Catholic priest. And if you're interested, you think about it. Don't answer me now, but go home, talk to your wife, think about it. I can, put you in front of the council of bishops for an interview. And if you pass that, I can pull some strings and get you into the seminary of my church. Of course, you have to pass, but if you pass, I'll ordain you to the priesthood." So
Mm.
I already knew the answer was yes, but I didn't say it then. And I got home. Of course, I talked to the wife. I didn't know the whole time I was on the show. I wondered, why did this get laid into my lap? It came out of nowhere. How did it get laid in my lap? I knew there was a reason, and it was that day in that trailer. It hit me like a bolt of lightning. That was the reason that my mother had a plan. She laid that show in my lap for me to meet Bishop Long and for that to happen. And so when I entered the seminary, come on, who enters the seminary at 60? And I was never a good student anyway. I'm like, this is going to be really hard. Um, I was talking to my guardian angel saying, you're going to have to cheat with me and come up with a lot of the answers for me on these tests, you know. But uh, I knew that I would have to turn the page on the paranormal stuff and the exorcism stuff and just
Yeah.
concentrate on being in the seminary. And so I did that. And so I walked away from all of that and just became a priest. But now, now's the big question, what now? I'm building my ministry, but now the cases never stop coming. The people needing help never stop. My wife is always like, you and I both know what you're going to do. Why do you keep fighting it? So I have a feeling I'm going to be probably jumping in the deep end with the floaties off into probably Bishop Long's theology course and demonology course and probably continuing down that path.
I
But right now I'm
actually
just enjoying
took,
being a priest.
yeah, I actually took that like back in the day. He offered like some type of a demonology course I was interested in. I took
Cool.
it, and I was raised through Catholicism. When I was younger, I went to school, Catholic school, and the funny part was like, so the course starts with like, you need to learn about the devil, right? And then like I go to some satanic website and I just start freaking out like, and then I just closed I was all over, devil overload, can't do this right now. My poor Catholic mind, I'm all, can't do this right now, just I was like, ah like, wow, yeah, like hail Satan, worship, like all this, like all the little thing, and there's little devils dancing on the pages. I'm like, yeah, I'm like, no,
You're like, no,
no,
I'm done.
I was like, I'm good. Next part.
Yeah, that's the part that you gotta know your enemy. You gotta know what they're up to in order to be
It
able
scared the
to,
hell out of me. I felt like so insecure about my myself. So, as far
Well,
as like the
so
whole,
you think
yeah.
that you might be
So,
jumping in the deep end, huh? And so I think that's amazing because we need people like you.
yeah,
It's not just the paranormal. It's like Rocky's saying, it's the whole satanic
right.
agenda and trying to help people get out of that lifestyle or those families. Is that something that it's included in what the deep end includes?
well, it's funny you ask. You and I must have a little psychic connection going on here because
You wouldn't know.
my wife was just saying to me the other day, she goes, why are you a member of the Society of St. Benedict if you're not going to continue, doing exorcisms? And she's got a good point. Because I am a member of the Society of St. Benedict. We are a very highly specialized team of exorcists that we came together and we decided, well, we realize so many of these people reaching out to us are paranormal investigators, teens that have gone out, were at the wrong place at the wrong time, said and did the wrong thing, ended up with these attachments. Now they need help, and they didn't have anywhere to turn to, or they were turning to people that just made things worse and didn't know what they were doing. So we were already formed to help the church, the USOCC, in investigating cases of alleged demonic activity to find out if they were legit and investigate that for the church. But we decided, well, let's reach out. Let's put an olive branch out to the paranormal community too, and give them a place where they can go when they need help with those types of things. So the Society of St. Benedict is a team that not only helps the church, works for the church, but we help the paranormal community too. And it's, residential, commercial, families, wherever the help is needed.
Mm. Yeah, I've heard horror stories. I think me and Kim were at that one. What house was that? And then like it was the lady with the sage.
Oh,
And then
that was that Henderson house.
yeah, we ended up going to like a house case. They were like, "Hey, Rock, this place is haunted. Would you like come check it out?" I was like, "Sure, I'll come by." Like, I never offer like I just go just to prove that the place, like if there is a correlation of a haunting, like I don't help. If you need help,
No.
yeah, I
No,
don't help.
thanks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's too much.
You
it's too
go in and
much.
try to
You
make
going?
sure they're not,
Yeah,
let them know they're not
yeah,
crazy. Let me see if I can find something
right,
to help you. You two are trained enough to recognize what's going on,
right,
and then you can go and
exactly.
find help.
Doing
That's
this for
beautiful.
years, so you could tell, and I'm not gonna like throw it out there, but I want to say like 90% of the uh, people that are influenced by the houses are could be sustained as explained. But then you got your other 10% that can be sustained as unexplained. This is what but this one did have some interesting things that happened to it, but the individuals that tried to help these individuals were just the stories were how would you describe it, Kim?
Yeah, they were haunted by some stuff. They tore down some really old trees, and then they thought they had tree spirits haunting them, which okay. And so they asked for help in the paranormal community, and they got a couple of quacks that came in there, did rituals, and made them go get blood and all this stuff, and it made it worse. And then those people were long gone, and now these people were really, they were the ones that were on Ghost Adventures. It was the house calls, the one in Henderson. And, it's just they asked us to help them and we're like, "No, we can't. We're out." But, so I personally don't like going into people's houses. I don't like doing house investigations at
And I
all.
would always tell Keith that, like, I when I used to go investigate, like, the Queen Mary, or you go to locations that you pretty much already kind of have an idea of what exists over there, like the White Lady over at the, Old LA Zoo, or there I say, "This is what people have seen," trying to find a correlation. When you go to an actual house investigation, you have no idea what you could be stepping into. And I always told Keith, man, I don't like doing house
Mm-mm.
investigations because you play the roulette wheel. Neither A, the people are not all there, or B, there is something happening that's probably going to be out beyond my control. So that's what always scared me.
Mm.
So that's but if people needed help, I wouldn't want, like, yeah, I'll let you know if I tell you the place is haunted or not. But as far as you could, I can't I can't help you get rid of anything. So I know my limitations.
Good for you, brother. You two make a good team also, and and I know you guys may or may not have had this discussion between each other, but you also are a team, and like sometimes I try to sneak out of here and work a case because I'm still nervous about taking my wife on them, and she's stubborn. She still wants to go. When she was really really sick, she wanted to go. So I'm still worried about that, and I've been on cases where the demonic have asked why I didn't bring Sharon, or
Mhm.
in a very matter of fact
Wow.
way, how's Sharon doing? Like because
Wow.
of the history, and and tell me what they're going to do. After we're done with you, this is what we have, and we're not done with her yet.
Oh
So they're like
gosh.
paranormal gangsters. They go after what you love, and you've got to be careful. And so you two have to watch each other's backs. And I know that you two both worry about one another. So that's another thing you have to take into consideration when you do this stuff. Um, who you? That's why I stopped having a team, Rahkee. I had a team, but I stopped because I didn't want some of the things that were happening to my wife and I to happen to my friends or other members on my team.
Mm.
So I dissolved my team, and that's just something. And it's so funny. I'm telling you, Kim and I are on a psychic connection here. You want to hear a great tree story? You brought up a
I
tree.
do.
Yes.
I do. I
I'm
do.
telling you, man, I had this tree, the biggest tree. Like, in Vegas, there's no trees, but occasionally you see these
Mm-mm.
old neighborhoods and they got these huge trees.
Mhm.
I had one of those huge trees right in my yard, the biggest tree on the property. And after we were here for about 10 years, and I really believed I had some elemental action going on out in the yard. My tree is starting to lean towards my house. Now, if it eventually
Oh,
falls,
wow.
it's probably going to take out my master bedroom. It was that big and that close to the
Right.
house. And I figured it was, I had an expert come out and said, well, it's probably dying and it's going to eventually die. You need to get it cut down. Well, I couldn't have, every tree guy that came out was too expensive for me at the time. So I just tried to ride it out, but it was leaning more and more and more towards the house. So one day I go out there and I tell all my colleagues this, and they laugh at me and they get on me for this. You do what you got. When in Rome, this is about 10 years ago.
Right, right.
I go out there and I prayed to everything that I could think to pray of, including the Holy Family. And I have a little Native American in me. So I dug a hole and I put tobacco in it and candy and money and holy water and holy oil. And I'm praying to whoever, and I'm praying to the elementals too. I'm like, if you're here, I've never tried to kick you off my land. I've let you hang out. Um, you can't, if you let this tree fall on my home, it's probably going to kill my wife or me, or at least take out our master bedroom. We're going to have to move for a while. Who knows who's going to move in next? Um, I prayed, don't let it fall on my neighbor's house. I can't afford to buy him a new garage. Don't let it fall on our car. We just bought it. We needed to get to work and home. Don't let it fall in the street and hit a kid. We had a lot of kids playing in the street. I'm all, just do me, whatever you do, help this situation come to nice closure. Help me here.
Right.
So I go in the house. I kid you not. I wake up the next morning. The tree had lifted out of the ground and fell back the opposite way, perfectly in my yard, missing my neighbor's house, missing my car, and falling just short of the sidewalk so kids could still play. When the thing was
Wow.
I
already about to hit my home.
I am
So
now
I
gonna use that
again
story.
I
I'm gonna use
again
this
I
story for the rest of my life. I'm gonna call it the parable of the tree,
the
and
parable
I
of the tree and the
swear
elementals.
and
I'm telling
faith
you, man.
and the faith,
Well,
I'm gonna use I swear I'm gonna use this story for the rest of my
I
life.
definitely want to hear more about elementals, like fairies. Like, are those really on another dimension? Are they here, or are they demonic, or what can you tell us?
All I can
Or
say
your
was
take.
I have another crazy story where my wife used to live for many, many years before she met me, lived in Hawaii. So I have this beautiful garden in my front yard, but there was one part of the garden that was kind of funky. And we were having a lot of issues out in the backyard. And I was sitting in my lounger watching TV, and I kid you not, a little person came through my doggy door. I might have been dozing off, and it might have been my imagination working overtime. But it wasn't a cat. It wasn't my dog. My dogs were mastiffs. They're already in the bed sleeping. Something poked its head and looked at me through my doggy door, and it wasn't a cat. And then I saw it walk across my back porch, across the sliding glass window. Well, I think it was a few days later, I had a gentleman on my show from Hawaii who knew a lot about the mini hoonies. And when I said, "Do you believe in all of the elementals and stuff?" And the Hawaiians, of course, they do. I told him the
Mm.
story. He goes, "Didn't your?" He knew right away. He goes, "Didn't your wife live in Hawaii for a while?" I said, "Yeah, for many years." He goes, "Talk to her. She brought something back from Hawaii, I bet, and that could be a mini hoonie." I thought the guy was a little bit of a whack job, but I loved him. I was like, so
What?
I go out into my yard and I start looking through the garden. I find this big lava rock, this
What?
beautiful white and black lava rock with holes all through. It doesn't fit in Vegas in my garden. I'm like, so I bring Sharon out to the front yard. I'm all, "Do you know where this rock came from?" She goes, "Oh yeah, that's the rock I brought back from Hawaii." I
Sure
knew
enough.
right then. You don't bring anything back. I told her the story. She went, "Oh my, we got to do something here." Well, here again, I'm not going to ship it back to Hawaii. I probably should have. What I did was I picked it up and I handled it with kit gloves. I did again the same thing I did with the tree. I did with the rock, talking to whoever would listen, and I moved it to the nicest area of my flower garden where there's always
Nice.
either shade from the house or shade from another tree amongst all this really healthy succulents and aloe vera and really nice area. And I continue to go out there and pour holy water on it and pray over the rock. And my whole garden just took off like wildfire. And we stopped having weird issues around the house. I've got a lot of Celtic ancestry in my background. So all the stories of the fairies and the leprechauns and all that. Me, I'm really old school, and I just have a feeling that there's always when legends are just go so far back and so many people believe in them and so many people have had experiences and you've got a country that won't even build on fairy mounds. And you go to Hawaii, they won't build roads through where they believe Minihuni live. When cultures go to that extreme, there has to be some truth behind these legends and these
Hmm.
beliefs.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, no,
I don't rock the boat.
I
I
I
don't, I
just
don't.
think it's funny because I'll find, like, these, like, they'll have them, like, on ancient Egypt or whatever it is, and then, like, the same markings from, one place to another, and then, like, even stories of, like, dragons. They were in China, and I forgot they're I think they were in, like, England, but, like, all these old stories, like, how did, like, um these markings or these ancient markings of, like, same, like, eagle people or whatever, make yeah, it's just weird because they're like, at that time there was no email, like
Yeah.
it took a long time for, like, just to get, like, 10 miles down the road. How did, like, thousands of miles this dude has a eagle marking on their wall versus here in Egypt is, like, the other side of the world. They got, like, these, like, similar markings from that time period, and it's just like there is no explanation, but it exists. So yeah, it's just amazing. Yeah, I don't have an answer, but I just think that's an interesting correlation of, like, between just areas on of the world. So
They all have their
yeah,
beliefs.
right. But they're similar. Like
So there's another. Now I'm gonna start rolling with these questions. So
Sure.
we had some run-ins with vampires and more than one
Uh-oh,
occasion.
here we go.
Is
I got a vampire
Vegas?
story.
Come on, let's hear
yeah.
it.
This is crazy. I never tell these stories. Um, many, many years ago, I'm talking 20, 25 years ago, I went and spent 10 days in a haunted hotel in downtown New Orleans. I went there at the time. I worked in a concrete saw blade business. So I went there to sell diamond saw blades for this company. So during the day, I'm at this convention, and at night, I would go to my hotel room. And when I got a little bit too freaked out from the spirit activity in the room, I would go out and I would walk around New Orleans ghost hunting, taking pictures of stuff and doing a little investigating. And this one night, I'm walking back and I stop for a moment because I get this really just weird, creepy feeling. And everybody is thinking, that's because you're in New Orleans and it's the middle of the night. Yes, but look over across the street and standing in this old abandoned lot next to a tree is this tall, skinny, um, whiter than white guy. Probably, I mean, he appeared middle aged, but I mean, he's like POW thin, wearing old like clothes from like maybe 50 years back, and he's just sitting there and I just start kind of staring at him. I get a little freaked out, so I take off. I'm walking back to my hotel room. I get down to like two streets down, make a right. There's the guy a block ahead of me,
Oh
standing
my
against a
God.
building, watching me.
Oh no.
I stop dead in my tracks, and I'm just kind of staring at him. I'm like, is that the same guy, or is a guy that looks like him, or that's the same freaking guy? So I cross the street. Like, should I go back? I don't want to go back that way because if it's two guys, there's another guy. I'm going to get jumped.
Right.
So let me just take this side street, which is like several blocks before the street I need to take, and I'll somehow snake my way back to the French Quarter. I go down this other side street, turn up another side street, and now across the street against another, there's the guy again. I'm like,
Oh my
okay, well
God.
now I'm
Wow.
thinking maybe it's a ghost. And this is the ghost that's bugging me in my room and it's following me around. But then I started really getting this really just the kind of feeling from this apparition, if it was an apparition, like I hadn't got before. I felt really like I was being stalked and in real danger. And so I
Mm.
crossed the street again. This time I said, well, I'm just going to walk right past him, reach in my pocket for the holy water. I got the holy water bottle. I'm just going to start blasting him if he runs across the street at me. I walk past him. The thing is, he just is kind of staring off into space. We have eye to eye contact until we don't anymore. And I just walk past him. I kind of glance back over, and he's just sort of minding his own business, staring off into space. I get down. I get to another street. I'm heading over towards my hotel room, and there he is, almost in front of my hotel room to where, like, I almost have to walk right up to him to get in my hotel room. And I'm like, this is just not right. And this is not cool. So I kind of waited for a little bit until there was some people coming who I was like, well, I'm going to walk with them at least to my hotel room. Then I'll go in. And if they're going to my hotel room, God bless. So I
Yeah.
just kind of like I know them. They're hammered, drinking hurricanes, and I mean, this is we're just before Mardi Gras is going to start because this I went there on New Year's Eve and I'm there for 10 days. So Mardi Gras is just around the corner. These people are partying. I just kind of join with them. When I get in the group and we start walking, I don't see the guy anymore. I'm like, oh man, that's
Wow.
not cool.
Wow.
I go to my hotel room. So the first person I call was a friend of mine that I know has lived there all her life. Expert on vampires. Lives in New Orleans. First of all, she got on me for walking around by myself in areas of the French Quarter and downtown New Orleans I shouldn't have been, and you probably couldn't do that today and at that time of
Mhm.
night. But she said she really freaked me out because she honestly felt in her heart of hearts that I was being stalked by a vampire.
Wow.
So,
Mm.
do I believe in them? Again, um, did I work a possession case once where a guy looked like he turned into a werewolf? Yes. Have I been called by
Mm.
people that live out in the bayous in New Orleans saying I have an uncle or a dad or a brother who I think's a loup garou? And did I spend 6 hours on the phone one night with a guy locked in a shed in a bayou while we listened to the Meters? I never heard that group, the Meters, before. He had all their CDs. He just kept playing one CD after another, talking to me. His family locked him in the shed because they believed he was a loup-garou, a werewolf,
Oh,
and that
wow.
this was a night where he thought he was going to change. So I'm on the phone with them all night, and then we got even on a Skype and a Zoom call, and I'm watching him, talking to him. There's a lot of power to the power of belief and the power
Right.
of prayer and faith and there's a lot of power in the mind. And again, these legends, like you walk past a lot of these homes in the bayou and they got the spirit trees where these trees are dead and every branch has a bottle on them, and they got mirrors on the
Mhm.
outsides of the front of their door facing out to ward off the bayou witches. I'm not an expert in all that stuff, and I don't want to rock the boat. Why poke the bear? If something lands in my
Right.
lap and I need to fight back, or somebody close to me or a client comes to me and they're in trouble, yes, I will help. But I'm careful. I'm very careful now, especially after what happened to me and my wife and what I've seen happen to a lot of people that I would have never in my wildest dreams 30 years ago would have thought I would see or experience.
Right.
But again, I don't know. You got to be careful.
Yeah.
So that leads me to my last question.
Oh, I was gonna say, um, I got called in.
Well, hold on. Give us 5 more minutes. The demonics, the devils,
I hate my job.
the
No, I love
devils.
my
Is
job. I
there
got
a
along.
creature? Is there really a creature that is a devil that can be interdimensional, that has hair and horns and red skin?
I've never seen the hair or the horns or the red skin, but the devil is real. Demons are real. They're all fallen angels. They all work for the devil. And I could never adequately put it into words the level of
Mhm.
hatred they have for us. They would like to just see every single human being on the face of the earth dead. Um, Hell is so bad, and I've seen it, that demons don't even want to be there. That's why they would rather be
Mhm.
anywhere but hell. That's why there's so many possessions going on, and why there seems to be so much evil rampant in the world right now, because humanity has gotten away from faith and gotten away from God, and we've allowed this stuff to just like a cancer
I
move
agree so
through
much because, like,
humanity.
from the '80s until now, it has changed
Yeah, it's really
a
ramped up.
lot. Like, even the faith that, like, I remember, trusting, like, the faith in God, even on, like, the money, and, it's been, like, it's been a ride from the '80s all the way to now. It's definitely has increased, like, the world has turned. I feel the world has turned evil. That's it's definitely not what it was before. So, I guess take it
You know
for
what
what
wouldn't
it's
hurt
what
before you guys cut me loose? I don't know. I know you're Catholic. You're still Catholic, Rahkee?
Of course I am.
Kim, what do you have a
I
religious belief
I
system
was
in
raised
place?
Catholic. Yeah, I was raised
Did you
Catholic.
wanna do a prayer?
Yes, let's do a
You get no.
prayer.
Okay, we can do a prayer, but it wouldn't hurt after
Or what
tonight
we
if you
Okay.
guys s- just said a prayer every morning, midday when you think about it, and every night before you go to bed. And in your prayers, add the intention for peace and love to come back to the world, and us collectively as the human race push the darkness back. And you'd be surprised the wonders that would happen. So let me get a good. Here, we need to take authority over this. You guys ready? Name of the
Yep.
Let's
Father, and
do
of
it.
the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Lord Jesus Christ, in thy name, I ask thee to bind and silence all powers and forces that do not accept thee as Lord and King, in the air, in the water, in the ground, the netherworld, and nature, and the spiritual world. I ask thee to bind all demonic action and demonic communication. Lord, seal this whole place, all of us here, and all our intentions in the precious blood of Jesus Christ. Mary, we ask thee to surround us with thy mantle of protection and crush Satan's power in our lives. Saint Michael the Archangel, we ask you and all our guardian angels to defend us in battle against Satan and the power of darkness. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy
Amen.
Amen.
Spirit. Amen.
That's beautiful. So will you
Yeah,
come
I will
back?
come back. Oh,
Come back to our
I'll
show.
come back anytime you want. I know for a
That sounds
fact, without
great.
even looking at my calendar, I'm booked out to the end of July. If you guys don't mind booking out that far, I'll throw some Friday dates at you. My Friday show is live at 2 p.m. Pacific for an hour on camera, but I've got all
Okay.
my Fridays open except for the first Friday. I've got every Friday after first Friday in August open. I'll throw some dates at you. I'd love to have you guys on the show, and I'll come back anytime you'll have me back. And I love you both and respect you both, and I really had a great
Thank you
time
so much.
tonight.
Love you too.
Thank you
Thank you.
so much.
Oh, just a really quick, where could they find you at? Like, go ahead and let them know where to find you if they would like to contact you.
www.ghost-b-gone.biz is my wife and I's website. usocc.org is the church I belong to. Um, Saint Society of Saint Benedict is the team. They also have a website. And on my website, I have books, a couple of books for sale. All the proceeds, or most of the proceeds, go to support stjude.org, St. Jude's Children's
Okay.
Research Hospital, Nevada, and the ASPCA. I got a course there people can enroll in, and there's a place where people can make an appointment to speak with me about their spiritual issues.
Awesome.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being on our show. And once again, we'll be here next week, Thursday, 7 p.m. live, Rocky Horror Live, Pacific Standard Time. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Good
God
night.
bless you. Good night, guys.
Bye.